All right. So welcome back to Dapp University. So sorry we're getting started a little bit late here today. I had some technical difficulties with the stream this morning. For some reason, my streaming software likes to just forget that my camera is connected. So I got that sorted out. But super excited to jump on this stream today, update you all about what's happening in the blockchain space, particularly around the Ethereum ecosystem, because that's what I spend all my time in, day out. I've worked with this technology for years now, and I watch it like a hawk because, hey, it's just what I do. And I like to do these live streams to update you all what's happening, look at the crypto markets. So we got some pretty cool news to talk about today. That I think would be a big deal for Ethereum. And this kind of flew under the radar yesterday, also like yesterday's update in the live stream. But I want to go over that today and look at a few more exciting things and also see what's happening with the cryptocurrency markets. So before we get into that, if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to become a blockchain master step-by-step, start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. All right, so we got people jumping in the chat here. We've got Culture Highs, Rabil, Jorit or Horit. I hope I'm saying that right. Eugen, awesome, very cool. Welcome. So let's go ahead and jump into this first piece of news that I want to talk about, which I think would be a big deal for ETH. So, it's crazy that so much is happening right now. It's crazy that I can basically jump on a live stream, many days per week, and there's some big development that's happened in the blockchain space that's really bullish for Ethereum technology. That's a really good sign. Okay. It would have been hard to really do these live streams like this time last year. Well, maybe this time last year because DeFi was starting to really take off, grow legs and gain adoption. But let's say in 2019, 2018, not so much. But it's crazy that right now there's so much to talk about, and that I can, there's constantly like a big deal for ETH. So let's look at this one today. So this is that the Miami is collaborating with some Ethereum developers to put city services on the blockchain. Okay, so there was an interview that came out yesterday with the mayor of Miami, Vitalik, and a few others. Yeah, that was pretty awesome when they're talking about this. So we've talked about the mayor of Miami a little bit on this channel about how they're trying to make Miami a very crypto friendly city. So let's kind of just dive into this, talk about this. So basically, he was talking about how he wanted Florida to add Bitcoin to its treasury, right? We talked about this last month, I believe, especially when all the news was coming out about these institutions buying cryptocurrency for their balance sheets, Tesla, MicroStrategy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, that was sort of news that was coming up during that wave of things as well. But that was sort of the first push, but now he's talking about exploring crypto by turning its attention to Ethereum. So according to a new episode of The Scoop, Ethereum creator Vitalik Buterin and Suarez, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, announced that they said they've embarked on a new collaborative project focused on city services. Okay. So there's a lot to this. I won't go through the entire article, but they have some bullet points here at the bottom that I definitely want to call out, and I can give you some more of my thoughts on this. So what they're primarily focused on is how can the Ethereum ecosystem help create jobs in Miami. Okay. The ways in which decentralized systems will benefit the city, like the transfer of title records for real estate. So I've talked about that a lot in this channel, how I think that's a big piece of low-hanging fruit, okay, for blockchain technology. And why now is the time to start building projects like this on top of Ethereum, despite the scalability issues. I've said this for a long time as well, which is, it's important to just test out your ideas on Ethereum now, even if it can't scale like we want it to long term. And that's exactly what they're pushing for here. And then also, talking about how Florida can become like Wyoming to become the next regulatory bastion for crypto. So yeah, this is a big deal. Okay. The fact that they're, talking about doing this on Ethereum, eyeing Ethereum as, the most capable blockchain to do this with the most network effect, all that kind of stuff. Of course, the article doesn't say that. I'm sort of reading between the lines here. It's the logical conclusion to me. Like if I were consulting on someone, like if the mayor of Miami called me and said, "Hey, we want to do this," I'd say that's what you should use. So let's talk about some of these use cases. So first and foremost, as real estate, I've talked about this multiple times on my channel, but I'll recap this. Why this is such low hanging fruit that's a very logical place to start, a very practical place to start doing things with blockchain. So think about real estate titles, for example. If you've ever purchased property before, you're familiar with this. If you haven't purchased property before, that's okay. I'll kind of explain this. Whenever you go buy a house, let's just say a piece of residential real estate, you're buying a house to live in. There's this. It's a really long, convoluted process. Okay, with lots of middlemen, with lots of different hoops to jump through, all this kind of stuff. And at the very last step in the phase is the closing. Okay, and you go to a closing, you actually have to go to a physical location. You have to sign a bunch of documents with a pen with somebody who's a notary, and then you have all this list of fees, right? And parts like loan origination fees. It's like title fees. You're paying a title attorney to transfer the deed to the house from one person to you, or maybe some other entity to you. Okay, and you're also like paying insurance to make sure there's no liens on the title that come back to you down the road, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot in that, all right? And so me as a developer looking at that from the outside in says that is ripe for automation, right? To clear out a lot of that fat, okay? There's so much bloat in that. Now, part of this is by design because lots of people are saying, oh, I can make a little extra money off this transaction. I'll just insert my, service here, or my tax here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But think about this. Title transfers, it's great. It's crazy. Like, titles are still, and deeds and all that kind of stuff, they're still like recorded on paper in courthouses in many cases. And like, whenever these get transferred, somebody's literally like taking a piece of paper out of a file and like putting a stamp on it and putting your name on it. It's pretty crazy. Like I maybe kind of get a little bit of that wrong, but it's very old school. Okay, so the whole point here, you could use blockchain technology to remove a lot of this bloat. Number one, you could essentially model the deed to a house with something like a non-fungible token. Maybe the current NFT standard is not the correct fit for this, but you could create some sort of smart contract standard that models the deed to a house, okay? And all that really has to happen is some sort of payment has to take place in order to move that deed from one address to another, okay? So, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, even the words we use for blockchain with Ethereum have so many analogies in this world. Signing, right? You sign a contract. You're signing things with your private key. Your address to your home, the address to the person who owns it, address on Ethereum. There's so many like words that are the exact same that should be, getting the wheels going on how you can fix this. So, I mean, it also is a huge, it's also such a natural fit because the things that really work in blockchain right now are any games that are currently pay to play. So trading is a pay to play game. Trading works on blockchain. Anything in finance is essentially pay to play. So that's why finance really works on blockchain right now. Similarly, moving real estate titles is a pay to play game. So, it's a natural fit, right? There's it seems to me like there's not really that much effort to make something like this happen. I think honestly the biggest problem, the biggest piece of friction right here is this regulatory concerns. Okay. I think there's just so much regulatory bloat around real estate and how it works that those are the real barriers that have to get crossed before something like this can be used for blockchain. But I do think we could see, if some of those things are addressed and conquered, I think we could see real estate transactions become more and more of a completely automated process. I mean, we're already seeing that happen with, Zillow, Red Door is the name of it. I can't remember. Redfin. Is it Nextdoor? Nextdoor is a social networking app. I think I'm getting one of those names wrong. Sorry about that. But you're basically seeing like a real estate trend towards an online process where people are window shopping for real estate online with Zillow and similar. Some cases they're hiring the real estate agents on there, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Some people actually, have sold their homes through those internal offerings. That basically these people just like the platforms will offer you money and say, hey, they want to sell your house. You know what I mean? It's usually like a lowball offer so that you'll just walk away from it and they can flip it for a profit. But basically, I can see the entire real estate process trend towards being completely online, where you find the real estate on there. You maybe go through some sort of automated system that automates the closing process, and under the hood, a lot of the transfer happens on blockchain. We're a ways away from that happening, but I definitely could see that happening. So let's say we got people in the chat here. Yeah, you need gas to drive. All right, so let's maybe a little about Bitcoin dumping. Let's go ahead and look at the crypto markets. I know I talked about real estate for a long time there. But let's look at the crypto prices. But yeah, I think this would be a huge deal. I'm really excited to see Miami jumping on this. I mean, of course, I'm excited about Ethereum, but I'm also excited about them really pushing into some of the regulatory constraints that you know, are holding back blockchain adoption for things like this that are potentially regulated. All right, so let's jump into the crypto markets here. So let's look at Bitcoin. Not looking great on the 7-day chart. It's not bad. It's just like kind of, it's like low key bearish. Let's look at the 7-day here. Yeah. And we talked about yesterday. We can look at ETH here. Honestly, I think things are just kind of a little bit boring right now. You know, of course, not financial advice. I'm not a big trader, not a big TA guy. You know, I don't see any big indicators to think that, you know, the top is in for lots of reasons. We can look at the on-chain metrics. We can see, because that's the thing you really want to think about right now, is like when you see these dumps like this, the big question I'm always asking is this a long-term top? Okay. I don't have an indication to think that. You know, all of our models, all of our assumptions could be wrong. But typically when you have these sort of like, you know, tops, like you usually don't stay at the top for like, you know, 45 days basically. You know what I mean? Like you just stay at the top for like 5 to 10 days. So that's one reason. We can look at our on-chain metrics for sure. Let me just look here. We can look at, you know, what's happening with the on-chain metrics. We can kind of look at the supply. So it's loading here. So our nuples has dropped to 0.79. Okay. Yeah, so we're dropping in nuple terms. Okay. So moving away from the euphoric line, as always, you know, big picture idea here. You want to stay away from blue. We are headed away from blue. That naturally happens whenever the price drops like this. Okay. So, yeah, the fact that we've been around these price levels for quite some time, that we have more headroom in our on-chain metrics would, you know, as always, not financial advice, but to me that does not indicate like a long-term top. Again, we always go back to there's two assumptions with this market. The two assumptions are it's going to work basically like the last bull markets, where it was boom and bust cycle, and then there's the opinion that, you know, we're in a slower, gentler rise to, you know, a more long-term bull market. So I'm more inclined to think that we're still in a boom and bust cycle, but there are plenty of people who think not. So that being said, if we're not, then some of our assumptions about how the market would work would be invalid at that point. But I'm going to stick with history basically rhyming because I think human nature is doesn't change that much. So we'll see. ETH as well. Okay. Back to price levels not seen since a few days ago. So same sort of story. This is, to me, it's just a waiting game. See what happens. It's not financial advice. I'm not sitting here telling you to buy the dip, all that kind of stuff. You know, I'm just looking at what I'm currently invested in. I'm not really worried. Okay, so somebody says, what I think about ADA allowing smart contracts to be made in several languages. I think this is just like everything else where people are going to just use one thing. So, you know, Ethereum lets you write smart contracts in multiple programming languages. People predominantly use the same one. So let's take a look at something that also happened earlier this week. So we had another kind of experiment launch on top of Ethereum that did not go quite as well as people hoped. So I'm gonna be kind of gentle with this project because I don't think these guys meant well, and you know, we don't know what the total future of this is gonna be. And I don't have all the facts necessarily straight on this project, but it's one that people are talking a lot about. I think I mentioned it when it launched on my channel, so I want to kind of give you an update on this. So this is Faye stablecoins. I hope I'm saying that right. Sometimes I just read about projects online and I actually don't ever hear other people actually say them out loud. So sometimes I'm not sure if I'm saying it correctly. That was a big problem with Wi-Fi when it first launched, was people didn't know if it was Wi-Fi or it was Wi-Fi, or there's lots of disagreement on that. But anyways, you know, it was an algorithmic. So Faye was basically an algorithmic stablecoin that launched. And again, you have to go reading all the details on this. Fact check me on all this. You know, I'm kind of maybe a little bit loose in my understanding of this, so I want to do it justice. Like, again, I'm not being hard on this particular project. This stuff is hard by nature, but I did want to update you on it because a lot of people are talking about it and kind of give me my thoughts. So anyways, it's an algorithmic stablecoin, which basically was bootstrapping its value with ETH, okay? Because that's what happens with these sort of decentralized stablecoins. So you have to understand, not all stablecoins are created equally. So there are different stablecoins out there. Two of the most popular ones on top of Ethereum right now are USDC and DAI. Okay, so USDC is a fiat-backed stablecoin. You can always redeem it for $1 per coin at like Coinbase, for example. So DAI is different. DAI is a stablecoin that's actually backed by cryptocurrency in a decentralized way. On the blockchain. And so it's pegged to the US dollar, but it's backed by cryptocurrencies, where something like, you know, USDC is just backed by fiat currencies, and it's redeemable for dollars. So we've seen like more stablecoin projects come out that are backed by cryptocurrencies as well, that basically maintain their peg to the US dollar. DAI does it with MakerDAO, where basically you can mint DAI by you know, opening up a CDP. That's how they started off doing that with Ethereum. So anyways, we see more experiments like this. The Faye experiment had some difficulties here and has been losing its peg. Okay, so basically the price drifted away from $1, and yeah, there's a lot of details into the saga that I don't want to try to explain because I'll probably get it wrong and not do it justice. But there were like some penalties for selling, and yeah, it didn't look like it was going so well. So we'll see. I hope there's more to this story. Sorry, my screen got messed up here, everybody. All right, sorry everybody. I just lost my connection, my camera. I talked about that beginning of the live stream, how my camera kind of freaks out sometimes with my live stream setup, and it just did it again live on the stream. So sorry about that. But anyways, I kind of lost my train of thought there from this technical difficulty. But basically, you know, sorry here, let's see here. So anyways, you know, we've seen these kinds of experiments before. I hope there's more to the story. I hope this project can kind of get, you know, back on the ground. But that being said, there is important lessons to learn that, you know, number one is it's hard to stay up on everything that happens in the blockchain space. There's so many new projects coming out, so many DeFi experiments, that one, I personally can't stay on top of all of them as they come out. But number two is, you know, I gotta be really careful with new projects. I've always talked about DeFi is awesome. I think it is a lot of DeFi that we have now, I really do think is the future. But it's still early. It's still risky. Okay. And so you have to be careful before you just decide to, YOLO into a brand new project that could have, doesn't necessarily have all the kinks worked out of it, put it that way. So let's see here. Everybody got my audio okay still? So really sorry for the technical difficulties in the live stream, everybody, today. I probably need to change some of my equipment here. Maybe buy a new cable or something like that. It keeps cutting out of me. But let's see, we got some questions in the chat. Oh, Coinbase IPO. Somebody asked about that. So I do have some more thoughts on Coinbase IPO. I talked about it yesterday. How something you definitely need to watch out for. I'm gonna switch over to my screen here, and it's gonna cut out my camera, but I'll fix it. Okay, so let me just turn my camera on here. Again, this is really annoying. Sorry, everybody. Yes, I did talk about the Coinbase IPO yesterday, but I want to bring it up again because I do have some additional thoughts on that. So, everybody's excited about this. Basically, I don't know for sure what's going to happen to the crypto markets. There's lots of opinions about this. Some people say it's good for the crypto markets. Some people say it's bad. Some people say it has no opinion at all. I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. But we did see some metrics that came out of the Coinbase IPO, or the Coinbase listing here that I wanted to bring up. So these are some stats that they published. So basically, this was on their website. So first quarter 2021 estimated results. For the first quarter of 2021, the company currently expects the following as for 3 months in November. So anyways, verified users of 56 million. Monthly transacting users of 6.1 million. 223 billion of assets on the platform. 11.3% a crypto asset market share. That's pretty crazy. 122 billion assets on platforms and institutions. Okay, so that's a significant portion of this 223 billion. So about half are institutional assets. Trading volume of 335 billion. Okay, it's absolutely insane. Total revenue of approximately 1.8 billion for Q1 of 2021. Okay. Net income of approximately 730 million to 800 million. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. So this is insanely bullish ahead of their IPO. So as always, not financial advice. Not telling you to invest in the Coinbase IPO, but a lot of people are super excited about it. All right, so if you got some questions in the chat here. Somebody says just start coding on the blockchain. It will take a bit, but it'll take longer if you wait. Yeah, that's true. Okay, this is a good question here. Somebody says, how many hours do you think for a coding beginner would it take creating smart contracts on the blockchain, contracts, etc.? Thank you for the videos. Awesome. It's a good question, Jay. So I always just try to reverse engineer the problem. So it really is in some way just about total time, and the total time that it takes you personally to learn it will vary based on a number of things, like how much time you actually have to devote to it per day, versus somebody else who maybe has more or less time, or more or less of a natural just propensity to do it, right? Or aptitude to do it. It just depends. I wouldn't really worry about aptitude, all that kind of stuff. It's one of those things, if you're super interested in it, that's the real litmus test, in my opinion. Is are you super interested in it? Can you sit down and actually enjoy the process of learning it? That's the real litmus test, in my opinion. So that being said, um, it, it, it it's one of those things where I would just suggest people as a minimum try to do it, an hour a day to 4 to 5 days a week to get started for sure, just to watch your progress, move. If you can do more than that, awesome. But that's sort of like a minimum threshold that I would get, because you really you have to get to that point where you're kind of getting in the zone and absorbing the information. You know what I mean? And 15 minutes here and there is really not probably gonna let you get deep enough into the subject matter to gain that context to start learning new stuff. But I would start just doing hour blocks of time where you're really focused, really concentrating on it, and then just add it from there. You'd be surprised how much you learn. And I would just start there before you try to get some crazy big epic timeline, and then start adjusting your long-term goals once you've got some momentum with that, because that's what you really want to do. You want to start seeing feedback. You want to start seeing progress, because that's what get you excited about learning, rather than trying to set some big goal off in the distance initially. And then that really also depends on what your ultimate goal is. If you're saying like, hey, I need to change jobs ASAP, you know what I mean? I need to be in a new career in 6 months. It's possible, you know what I mean? But that means you need to stop pretty much everything you're doing and like go all in, spend as much time as you can on learning this stuff, nights, weekends, if you got a regular job right now. That's possible. I've seen people do it. But if you're just kind of like trying things out, I would start just learning it for fun, and then kind of get that feedback, and then get more serious as you go. So what's the huge deal with ETH? So somebody's joined the live stream late. We'll do a quick recap here. Miami is collaborating with Ethereum to put city services in the blockchain. And they had a conversation with Vitalik, the mastermind behind Ethereum, and a few others yesterday. Or I don't know when the actual conversation was, but this news broke yesterday. And they were talking about this. We talked about some ways of trying to do it. They're interested in projects like decentralizing the transfer of real estate records, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the big deal here is talking about Ethereum being infrastructure that cities can build on, which would be crazy. Okay, so let's see here. Yeah, somebody else would got a pretty good piece of advice here. Cody, learn the basics to get hired. Yeah, learn the basics, get hired, then get paid to learn the job. That's definitely a great strategy. So you want to learn the basics first, for sure. Basically, my whole criteria for that is, do some tutorials, building a real-world project, learn the coding languages as you go. Once you've crossed that step, go build an unguided project. Think of something you actually want to build yourself that there's no tutorial for, and then go build it. And then you're going to get stuck and get frustrated, and you got to Google your way out of the problems, ask other people. But once that's how you really learn, that's how you solidify your skills. And once you've done that, you can create a portfolio that will show other people what you can do on your own. And that's usually minimum enough to get hired somewhere, and you can get paid to learn from there. So let's see here. My opinion on Polygon. Yeah, I think it's definitely cool project. So I mean, they're coming from Matic. I've used Matic. I've used other side chains as well. Yeah, good things to say about Polygon. Somebody says, sadly, without scaling, it's a tough call to use ETH. In long and a long-term holder and follower a few L2 solutions, but without ETH2, and not secure if ETH so useful for day-to-day use cases. Yeah, I think that's definitely true. The thing to think about there though is that we're moving to all that stuff really fast. And especially like they're talking about in the article today, you don't really want to wait for all that stuff to happen if you're trying to build something competitive with technology. You want to build now, even when things are not perfect, and then start gaining adoption and figure out a lot of the hard problems so that you'll be in a really great position when things are good. Okay. I've seen this play out a lot with other projects in the past. I mean, think about all the famous companies who are massive now, who, like, when the dot-com bubble burst, they got to work, they were heads down in the trenches, building something. When things like really started taking off, they were in a massive position to get huge. Same type of thing. If you want to build something huge on blockchain, it's like all the companies that are successful now in DeFi, or all the DeFi projects are super successful now. They were building like crazy during a bear market when things were nowhere near perfect, right? Like cryptocurrency prices were at, crazy lows, all right? And nobody cared about crypto. Nobody cared about blockchain. Nobody cared about DeFi. No one even knew what DeFi was. But that was the optimal time to like get ahead and start building something before the herd was here, so to speak. And it's the same type of thing now. If you want to build something that really takes advantage of the benefits of Ethereum, where it doesn't make a ton of sense now, but will make sense when layer 2 is in full force and Ethereum 2.0 is here and the blockchain is ready for prime time, you want to build that app now so that when prime time's here, you've got a lot of stuff figured out and you've already shipped. That's how I think about it. All right, everybody. So that's what I got for today. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out. Some people can learn about blockchain. If you like these videos, you're as fascinated with technology as I am, then how can you get your hands dirty today? You go to my YouTube homepage. You can find any of my free courses there, like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. If you like those, you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, I can show you become a blockchain master step-by-step, start to finish, over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. Okay. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. All right. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching.